What if, years after a painful breakup, you unexpectedly run into your first love? The one you once would have defied the whole world for, but never dared. Imagine. Both of you now have families, children, and settled lives, but a single chance encounter turns everything upside down. Could you resist the temptation to reclaim the past? Or would you risk destroying your present for a fleeting promise of happiness? The story of Alex and Emily isn't just about love and separation. It's an honest look at the price we pay for our choices, the power of parental influence, the fear of change, and how a single word, spoken at the wrong moment, can alter the course of a life. What will the characters choose? Duty or desire, stability or risk, the familiar or the real? Perhaps their choice will make you reflect on your own secret wishes and regrets. Open this story and maybe you'll see yourself in it. Parallel lives. Alex's life had always been just right. The right family, the right education, the right friends, even the right dreams. He was used to a path paved by his mother's care and control, as smooth as a road you could walk barefoot without fear. But one day, a crack appeared in that perfect pavement, and from it grew a feeling that didn't fit any of his mother's plans. That evening when it all began, Alex had no idea he would soon face a choice that would change not only his future, but his very sense of self. What matters more? A love worth fighting for? Or the comfortable stability you pay for with your own freedom? No one knew the answer. Not even Margaret, his mother, who was used to having everything under control, suspected that this time the stakes would be too high. And when the first shout echoed through the house, it was clear. This story wouldn't end simply. What do you even see in her? Margaret yelled at her son, waving a kitchen towel. Mom, we love each other. Alex tried to reason with her. Love? Do you even know what that word means? It's not just about rolling around in bed. It's a noble, high feeling. Alex knew that as long as his mother was this adamant, there was no point in talking. He left for another room and pretended to be busy, but for Margaret that was no excuse. So you still haven't told me what you see in her? She's just a nobody. And you're the grandson of a respected professor, the son of a successful businessman and company owner. She's not a nobody. Alex began to defend Emily. Then who is she? My fiancée. My future wife. Margaret looked at him in surprise and said, Really? I doubt that. Mom, stay out of my personal life. How can I? I won't let you marry her. She's not from our circle. Alex sighed heavily and asked, And what are you going to do? You'll get no inheritance until you break up with her. Margaret shouted. Alex was sure his mother was just being dramatic, but he couldn't rule out that she meant it. Yes, Margaret was hot-tempered, unlike her son. Luckily, he took after his father. But she had one quality. She always kept her word. And leave the car keys too. Don't forget I bought it for you, she reminded him. First he thought it was a joke. In all these years since he was 18, his mother had never said anything like this. They'd had disagreements but never like this. Are you serious? Alex asked. Absolutely. The keys. I'm waiting. All because of Emily? I'm glad you figured it out. Well, am I going to wait much longer? Fine, he said reluctantly, handing over the keys and leaving the house. Since Emily lived across town, he always drove to see her. Now he had to take public transportation, which felt completely foreign. This is awful. I haven't ridden a bus in years. So many people. How do they all fit? With every stop, the bus got more crowded. Stop pushing. Can't you see it's crowded? Alex complained to a woman with shopping bags. Oh, look who's sensitive. I need to get somewhere too. Stop whining. Everyone rides like this. Finally, Alex couldn't take it anymore and got off at the next stop. Ride in your sardine can yourselves, you uneducated idiots, he shouted after the bus, having argued with nearly every passenger. He had to walk 5 more blocks. Emily greeted him with open arms. Hey, sweetheart. How are you? She asked, kissing his cheek. Don't ask. That bus was a nightmare. I'd rather walk. What happened to your car? It's in the shop. Alex didn't want to tell Emily the whole truth. She was far from the fool his mother thought her to be, and she knew exactly how Margaret felt about her. Want some tea? Yes, please. I'm out of breath from walking. Alex's body really wasn't used to this kind of exercise. At work he sat all day, drove everywhere, and never worked out. They walked in the park, and in the evening Alex had to head back. He decided he'd never take the bus again. He wanted to call a cab, but money was tight until payday, and he didn't want to ask his mother for more. So he walked. Not only is it crowded, but it stinks of sweat, sardines, cheap perfume, Alex thought, remembering his bus ride after so many years. The last time he'd taken the bus was in high school. When he got home, he collapsed into bed, and the next day his muscles ached. Luckily, it was Saturday and he could recover over the weekend. Mom, are you going to give me my car back? Isn't this enough? Did you break up with Emily yet? Margaret asked hopefully. No, and I'm not going to. Then neither am I. Alex knew life was hard without a car, but he wasn't going to give in. Things only got worse. One day, Alex came home and started yelling at his mother. Mom, did you finish the renovations in my new apartment? Suppose I did. So what? When can I move in? He'd wanted to live on his own for a long time. At first, his mother agreed and even bought him the apartment, on the condition it was in her name. Then she added another condition. You're not moving in until you break up with Emily. What? Alex grabbed his head. That's right. I don't need that girl in my apartment. I know you'll bring her over right away. Then she'll get pregnant. No way. Alex hadn't expected this turn of events. So what are you going to do with the apartment? Rent it out. I already found tenants. Not surprising, it's downtown after all. Alex was amazed by his mother's stubbornness. In the end, he promised not to invite Emily to live with him. She could always check with the neighbors, as low as that sounded. But Margaret wouldn't budge. Her main condition was a breakup. Because of all this, Alex grew distant from Emily. He knew all their problems were because of her. His plans were falling apart too. It started to affect their relationship. Alex, what's wrong? Emily asked, worried. Nothing, he said through gritted teeth. But I can see something's off. How can I help? Emily was naturally kind and gentle. He knew and valued that. But he'd grown up with a very different life. Sorry, I have to go. I'm not feeling well. Should I call you a cab? I have some money left until payday. No need. Alex put on his jacket and walked home again. He knew he shouldn't be angry at Emily, but at his mother. Yet so much in his life, even at work, depended on her. I'm sorry, Alex, but Margaret said so, apologized Nadine, the HR manager at his mother's company. So I'm no longer deputy director? She demoted me to manager? How could she? Alex yelled. I'm just doing my job, Nadine tried to explain. Alex slammed the door and stormed into his mother's office. Margaret had just finished a phone call and looked at her son. "Mom, what is this?" Alex shouted. "First, watch your tone. Second, here I'm not your mom, I'm Margaret. Or did you forget?" "I remember," Margaret continued. "Yes, I demoted you because you don't understand any other way. If you still don't get it, you'll lose your job altogether." "What do you mean?" "I'll fire you." Alex couldn't believe his ears. "I'm not going to work somewhere else for peanuts." He knew he'd never earn as much elsewhere. At least not without years of work. "What do you want?" he asked. "The same conditions," his mother replied. That evening, Alex realized he couldn't let his life fall apart over Emily. Now he understood the saying, "Love alone isn't enough." He stared at a photo of Emily, taken last summer in the park. She was laughing, eyes squinting in the sun, so real, so alive. Alex squeezed his phone, as if holding it tighter would keep his feelings from fading. But inside he felt empty. He decided to break up with her over the phone, without explanation. He dialed her number. His heart pounded, but his voice was cold and distant. "Alex, hi." Emily immediately sensed something was wrong. "How are you? Is everything okay?" "We need to break up," he said, not giving himself time to hesitate. "What? Why?" Panic crept into her voice. "Alex, please explain. I don't understand." He clenched his teeth, silent. How could he explain that his life wasn't his own? That every step he took was dictated by someone else's will? How could he say he wasn't ready to fight for the two of them? "I'm sorry," was all he managed. "It's better for both of us." "No, Alex, please. Let's meet, let's talk. I'm begging you." Emily was already crying, and her tears cut him to the core. "No," he replied firmly. "No meetings. It's over." He hung up, unable to listen to her sobs. The phone trembled in his hand, and a heavy sticky pain spread through his chest. Alex stared out the window at the city lights, feeling truly alone for the first time in years. He had made his choice, and now he had to learn to live with it. From the hallway, his mother's voice called out, "Alex, are you coming to dinner?" she asked, as if nothing had happened. "No, I'm not hungry," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "As you wish," Margaret said indifferently, disappearing into the kitchen. Alex sat on his bed, burying his face in his hands. Memories flooded his mind. Walking with Emily through the autumn park, laughing at silly jokes, making plans for the future. All of it now seemed distant, unreachable. He got up, paced the room, opened the window. Damp night air, smelling of wet asphalt and leaves, rushed in. Alex took a deep breath, trying to calm the pain inside. At that moment, his phone vibrated again. Emily was sending messages, begging for an explanation, pleading with him not to leave her like this without a word. Alex didn't reply. Years passed. Alex achieved a lot. He became one of the company's directors, married a woman from an influential family, built connections, and earned respect. But sometimes, in rare moments of silence, he was overwhelmed by a wave of longing for something lost, for what once felt real. One evening at a corporate reception filled with celebration and business chatter, Alex never imagined fate would surprise him again, as if to test whether he'd made the right choice all those years ago under his mother's influence. He stood by a tall table, holding a glass of dry wine, absent-mindedly listening to his wife's conversation with colleagues. He was used to these events. Receptions, presentations, meetings with investors, all part of his new, carefully curated life, just as his mother had always wanted. That night he felt especially tired. "Mr. Anderson, may I introduce our new investor?" His assistant's voice sounded behind him. Alex turned and saw a confident man in his mid-40s, with an open smile and a firm handshake. Next to him stood a woman. It took Alex a second to recognize her, Emily. She had hardly changed. The same bright eyes, gentle smile, only her gaze was a bit more mature, a bit more reserved. "Pleasure to meet you," the investor said, shaking Alex's hand. "I'm Arthur Bennett, and this is my wife, Emily." "Alex," she said quietly, and in that single word was everything. Surprise, pain, memories. "Emily," he nodded, struggling to keep his composure. Alex's wife, Melissa, came closer, smiling. "Alex, do you know Arthur's wife?" "We went to school together," Alex replied, not taking his eyes off Emily. "How interesting," Melissa exclaimed. "Small world." At that moment, the waiter brought new glasses, and the conversation shifted to business. But Alex no longer heard the words or the music. Everything faded away, leaving just the two of them. He and Emily, separated by years, by fate, by other people's decisions. Later, as the reception wound down, Alex stepped out onto the terrace to catch his breath. The evening air was cool. The city sparkled with lights. He heard soft footsteps behind him. "You've changed," Emily said quietly, coming closer. "Time changes everyone," he replied, not turning around. "I used to imagine what I'd say if I ever saw you again. Now I don't know where to start." Alex turned. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the past flared between them. Pain, resentment, tenderness that neither years nor new lives could erase. "I'm sorry," he breathed. "Back then, I couldn't do it any other way." Emily smiled sadly. "I spent a long time searching for the reason you left. I thought it was my fault. But then I realized, sometimes we just can't fight what's stronger than us." "I was weak," Alex admitted. "I chose comfort, habit, fear, not you." "And I chose not to wait," Emily said softly. "I learned to live without you. But sometimes I dream of that park where we laughed." They fell silent. Inside, everything ached with pain and tenderness that words couldn't express. "Are you happy?" Alex asked. Emily looked at the city lights. "I've learned to be happy. I have a good husband, a son." "And you?" Alex lowered his eyes. "I lived the life someone else wanted for me." At that moment, Melissa and Arthur stepped onto the terrace. Melissa took Alex's arm. Arthur put his arm around Emily's shoulders. "It's time to go," Melissa said. "Yes," Alex nodded. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying their meeting over and over. He remembered every detail. How Emily tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. How her voice trembled when she spoke of the past. How in her eyes flickered the shadow of the girl he once loved. Melissa slept peacefully beside him, but Alex felt like a stranger in his own life. He got up, paced the apartment, poured himself a glass of water, but the thirst wouldn't go away. Inside, everything burned. He picked up his phone, stared at the screen for a long time, then finally wrote, "Emily, are you awake?" The reply came almost instantly. "No, I can't sleep." He gathered his courage. "Let's meet. Now." A long pause. "Where?" "At the hotel where the forum is. In half an hour." "Okay." Alex dressed quietly, trying not to wake his wife, and slipped out into the night. The city was deserted, only the streetlights casting long shadows on the wet pavement. He walked quickly, almost running, as if afraid that if he stopped, he'd change his mind. Emily was already waiting by the entrance. She wore a light coat, her hair in a loose bun, her eyes shining in the lamplight. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi," Alex replied, and for a moment they both stood silent, not knowing what to do next. "Let's go," Emily suggested, and they entered the hotel lobby. They went up to her room. The door closed behind them, and silence hung between them. Alex looked at Emily, his chest tight with longing and fear. "Are you sure?" she asked, looking into his eyes. "No," he answered honestly, "but I can't do anything else." She stepped closer, placed her hand on his cheek. Alex closed his eyes, feeling her warmth, her scent, everything that had once been his life. He embraced her, and in that moment past and present became one. They spent the night together, forgetting the world. It was a night of memories, tenderness, pain, and forgiveness. They whispered, laughed, cried, remembered the future they once dreamed of but never shared. "Why is it all so complicated?" Emily asked as they lay side by side, staring at the ceiling. "Because we don't know how to be happy," Alex replied. "We always choose what's easier, not what our hearts need." "And if back then," she began, but he interrupted. "Don't think about it. We were different then. We're different now." At dawn they dressed in silence. Alex looked at Emily, his gaze full of pain and tenderness, and she turned away. "We can't do this," she said. "We have families, children, lives we've built." "I know," he nodded. "I'm sorry." "And I'm sorry too." They left the room together, but parted ways at the elevator. Alex walked down the hallway, feeling empty inside. He knew this was their last night, their last chance to change something, and they both let it slip away. At home, Melissa was already awake. She met him in the kitchen, glanced at the clock in surprise but said nothing. Alex hugged her truly tightly for the first time in a long while. He realized his life would go on as before, but inside, there would always be a scar that would never heal. Emily returned to her husband. Arthur noticed nothing. He was busy with work, discussing new investments, making plans for the future. Emily looked at him and thought that maybe this was how it was meant to be. That happiness isn't a flash, but a steady light that warms without burning. Days, weeks, months passed. Life returned to its usual rhythm. Alex worked, built his career, raised his children. Emily took care of her home, supported her husband, and rejoiced in her son's successes. But sometimes when the city fell asleep, both she and Alex would remember that night. Life continued as usual. In the days that followed, Alex tried to act as if nothing had happened. He went to work, discussed projects with colleagues, smiled at meetings, but inside he felt empty. In the evenings he stayed late at the office, not wanting to go home too early. Melissa noticed his distance but didn't ask questions. She had long accepted that her husband had periods of silent introspection, and considered it part of his character. Alex tried to convince himself that everything was as it should be, that the night with Emily was a mistake, a spark ignited by nostalgia and unresolved feelings. But the memory of her wouldn't let him go. He remembered how she looked at him in the dim hotel room, how her hand trembled when she touched his face, how her voice carried both joy and pain. Emily couldn't forget that night either. She tried to be a good wife, a caring mother, to support her husband in everything. Arthur was attentive and gentle, but there was always an invisible wall between them. Sometimes Emily caught herself comparing him to Alex. His gestures, his tone, even his walk. She was angry at herself for it, but couldn't help it. One evening when Arthur was working late, Emily sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea, staring out the window. Rain tapped against the glass, just like that night when Alex had asked her to meet. She remembered their conversation, his hands, his voice. Her heart ached with longing and sorrow. Suddenly the phone rang. Emily jumped, glanced at the screen. A number she didn't recognize. She answered. "Hello. Emily, it's me." Alex's voice came through. She was silent, not knowing what to say. Her heart raced. "I'm sorry for calling," he continued. I wanted to hear your voice." "Alex, we can't," she said quietly. "We agreed." "I know. It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't stop thinking about you." Emily closed her eyes, holding back tears. "Alex, we have families. We can't destroy them for the sake of our memories." "I understand," he sighed. "I just wanted you to know. I'll never forget you." "And I'll never forget you," she whispered. They hung up, each left alone with their pain. Time passed. Alex thought less and less about that night, focusing more on work, his children, and the future. Emily too learned to let go of the past, finding joy in small things, in her son's smile, in her husband's care. But sometimes when the city slept, they both looked out their windows and thought of each other. They wondered how life might have turned out if once upon a time they had chosen each other. But now that was impossible. They had made their choices and had to live with them. Alex began spending more time with his family. He noticed how his children were growing up, how Melissa was changing, how much he had missed over the years, lost in work and memories. He tried to be more attentive, to say kind words to his wife more often, to organize family dinners. Melissa responded in kind, and gradually, the warmth that had once connected them at the start of their marriage returned. Emily changed too. She began to trust her husband more, to share her thoughts and feelings with him. Arthur sensed that his wife was closer, and he was grateful for it. He didn't know what had caused the change, but he was thankful that their family had become stronger. Alex and Emily no longer met, no longer called each other. Their lives ran in parallel, sometimes crossing at business events, but now they were just acquaintances who had once meant everything to each other. But deep inside, each of them carried the memory of that night, of the love they couldn't keep. That memory was both pain and comfort, a reminder that in life, there is always a choice, and every choice comes with a price. The story of Alex and Emily is a story about the choices we make between heart and duty, between the past and the present. Sometimes life confronts us with difficult decisions, and we don't always choose what our soul desires. But even if we part with a dream, it's important to learn to accept our fate, to find joy in what we have, and to let go of what we cannot change. All of us have faced similar situations. Regrets about what we didn't do, memories of first love, thoughts about how life might have turned out if we had acted differently. But as this story shows, happiness is not just about flashes of passion, but about the ability to appreciate simple moments, to be grateful for our journey, and for the people beside us. If you enjoyed this audio story, please leave a comment about what you think of the characters' choices, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories. See you soon.